At dinner, my daughter smirked and said, "My other daddy loves me more than you. He promised to take me and mom to Greece." My wife smiled and said, "She's just a child and doesn't know what she is saying." I smiled back and decided not to pay attention to it. But what happened next was rather unbelievable. I will tell you how everything unfolded. First, let me quickly thank you for your continuous support. This means a lot to us. If you enjoy the stories we share, kindly subscribe to this channel. It will be great if you can leave a comment on which city you are watching from. We might just give you a shout out in our next story. Today's special shout out goes to Roy Jim from New York. We are glad you enjoy our stories. Now let's go deeper into the story. I never liked spaghetti, but my daughter Lila loved it. Every Thursday, we had it just for her. Meatballs the size of golf balls, garlic bread slathered in butter, a salad no one touched. It became our tradition, even when I was drained from back-to-back meetings or Maya was too tired from whatever yoga studio she was into that month. That Thursday felt no different, at least at first. The clink of silverware, the hum of light conversation, Lila swinging her little feet from the chair. Then she looked up at me with that mischievous smile only kids can pull off, innocent but knowing it, and dropped the words that unraveled everything. "My other daddy loves me more than you. He promised to take me and mommy to Greece." I froze mid-chew, the meatball turning to paste in my mouth. My fork hovered in the air, a perfect snapshot of shock. Maya didn't flinch. She smiled almost too quickly and said, "She's just a child and doesn't know what she's saying." Lila giggled and twirled a noodle, unbothered. I forced a smile, nodded like it meant nothing, and continued chewing. The room didn't erupt. The world didn't stop. But inside me, something fractured so quietly that I didn't even realize it until much later. That's how betrayal starts, I think. Not with sirens, but with a whisper so soft you almost convince yourself you misheard it. I should have asked questions. I should have looked Maya in the eye and asked who the hell our daughter thought her other daddy was. But I didn't. I convinced myself it was just childish confusion. Maybe a cartoon. Maybe a game. Anything but what my gut was already screaming. I loved Maya. We'd been through 10 years, a child, late nights building my business from scratch, her quitting jobs she hated while I picked up the slack. She'd stood by me through lawsuits and sleepless nights. I believed in her. At least I wanted to. Later that night, I sat alone in my office with a glass of bourbon and stared at nothing. My mind kept looping back to that tiny voice calling someone else daddy. I hated that it bothered me. Hated how I ran through every male figure Lila had interacted with. Her uncle? No. Our neighbor who always helped her with the bike? God, no. That left one name circling my mind like a vulture, Reed. Reed was my business partner, my friend since college. We started the firm together, built it from nothing, worked till we bled. He was charming, smooth-talking, the kind of guy clients instantly trusted. He had a way with women, too. Compliments that danced just on the edge of inappropriate. Smiles that lingered a little too long. I'd seen him charm waitresses, interns, even my sister once. But I never thought, no, I refused to think, he'd crossed that line with Maya. We were like family. And Maya wasn't like that. Or at least, she didn't used to be. I remember walking into the bedroom that night, watching her scroll on her phone under the covers. She looked peaceful, her hair messy from the shower, skin glowing in the soft lamplight. I slipped in beside her and tried to act normal. She leaned into me, wrapped my arm around her waist, and whispered, "I love you." I murmured it back, but it sounded hollow even to my own ears. That night, I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, wondering how love can sound the same even when it starts to mean nothing. Over the next few weeks, I convinced myself I was overreacting. I drowned in work, stayed longer at the office, accepted every meeting I could. I figured if there was anything going on, it would show itself eventually. Besides, Maya seemed normal. We still laughed over morning coffee. She still sent me dumb memes. We still had sex, though less often, and she seemed a little distant. But I chalked that up to routine. Married people fall into ruts, don't they? Lila brought it up again once offhand, during a car ride. "Daddy, when are we going to Greece?" I looked at her through the rearview mirror, trying not to swerve. "Who told you about Greece, baby?" "Mommy and my other daddy. He said we'll go on a plane and eat gelato." I forced a laugh. "Sounds like a dream." She nodded seriously, then went back to her coloring book. "Kids don't lie. Not like adults." When they tell you something, they mean it. They don't even realize the weight of their words. That was the part that hurt the most. Lila wasn't trying to hurt me. She was just telling the truth as she knew it. That night, I sat Maya down. I kept my voice calm. Lila keeps talking about Greece, and someone she calls her other daddy. I need to know what that's about. She gave me a look, half amusement, half annoyance. Daniel, seriously? She probably heard it on TV. You're spiraling over nothing. I'm not spiraling. I'm asking. You're interrogating, she snapped, then softened. Look, I don't know where she got that from. I'll talk to her, okay? Don't let it get in your head. So I let it go. Again, because part of me wanted to believe her. But the seed was already planted, and it was growing in the dark, quietly, wrapping around my trust like ivy. Every time Reed called, every time Maya smiled at her phone, I felt it, the chill of something just beneath the surface, waiting. But I didn't act. I smiled through meetings, posed for family photos, played the good husband. Because sometimes, love doesn't die with a bang. Sometimes, it decays slowly, with 1,000 little lies and dismissals, until one day you look around and realize you don't recognize your life anymore. And yet, despite everything, I still didn't see it coming. I started watching her in the quiet moments, the ones most people ignore. How she tilted her phone away just slightly when I walked into the room. How she kept it face down even when it buzzed with messages. I didn't ask anymore. I'd already learned that asking turned me into the jealous husband, the insecure man, the one creating problems from thin air. So instead, I studied the silences. The pause before she answered. The quick change of subject. The way her laugh didn't quite reach her eyes anymore when we talked about the future. Once, I caught her staring at her reflection in the hallway mirror for so long, it was like she forgot I was there. She didn't see me approach, didn't hear me say her name. She just stood there, eyes blank, hand brushing the side of her neck like she was somewhere else entirely. At work, Reed became my refuge and my suspicion, sometimes both in the same conversation. We had always run things like a two-man band. I handled the numbers, the strategies, the grind. He brought in the clients, told the jokes, made people fall in love with our brand. He was magnetic. I used to admire it. But now, every time he walked into my office with that easy confidence, I studied his eyes for guilt. I never found it. That was the worst part. He acted exactly the same, laughing, pitching ideas, even offering to bring lunch. If something had changed, he wasn't showing it. But something had changed. I just couldn't prove it. Not yet. One afternoon, we were prepping for a big pitch, and Reed mentioned a restaurant on the other side of town, some Greek place. Best souvlaki I've had in years, he said, licking tzatziki from his fingers like a smug bastard. Took a couple of friends last weekend. Should have brought Maya, huh? The room spun a little. My mind, already tangled with doubts, latched onto those words like a hook. I smiled, tight-lipped, professional, but my hand gripped the pen too hard. Yeah, I said casually, she loves Greek food. He nodded, wiping his hands. She does. She really does. It could have been nothing. It probably should have been nothing. But when you're drowning in suspicion, every word feels like proof. I went home that night and watched Maya fold laundry like nothing was wrong. I told her about my day, about Reed's restaurant story. I watched her flinch barely, but enough. She recovered fast, smiled, and said, "Sounds nice." No mention of whether she'd gone. No denial. Just that same, infuriating smile. We stopped having sex. Or rather, she stopped. Always tired. Always something. I didn't push. I didn't beg. I just lay there next to her, wide awake, and listened to the silence between us grow louder by the night. I started spending more time at the office. Took Lila out on solo daddy-daughter dates. Anything to avoid the house that was slowly becoming a museum of what we used to be. I'd lie if I said I wasn't tempted to snoop. Her phone, her emails. But I never did. If she was betraying me, I wanted her to show it. I wanted to catch it in the open, not dig for it like a coward. Maybe that was pride. Maybe it was fear. Lila, bless her heart, kept dropping crumbs without knowing it. One morning, I was brushing her hair before school, and she asked if I thought Uncle Reed had a swimming pool. My hands froze mid-brush. "Why would you ask that, sweetheart?" She shrugged. "Mommy took me to his house when you were at work. He had a big TV." I smiled, but my knuckles turned white around the hairbrush. Did you like it? Yeah. Mommy laughed a lot. He had candy too. I kissed her forehead and told her to grab her shoes. Then I sat there on the edge of her bed, staring at the pale pink wallpaper we'd picked out together when she was a baby, and I thought about all the times Maya said she was going shopping or getting coffee with friends. All the times I stayed late at the office and came home to a quiet house, never suspecting. Still, I did nothing. Because sometimes, knowing isn't enough. You wait for the full picture. You wait until there's no denying it. Or maybe, deep down, I was still hoping I was wrong. My mother came to visit that week. She always had a sixth sense when things weren't right. She watched me carefully over lunch and finally said, "You've lost weight. Trouble at work?" I shook my head. "Nothing I can't handle." She leaned forward. "It's Maya, isn't it?" I nearly choked. "What? No. Why would you? She doesn't look at you the way she used to. And you don't smile at her anymore." I laughed it off, made some joke about long marriages and stress. But she saw right through me. That was the thing about mothers. They know even when you lie straight to their face. She didn't push, but she hugged me longer than usual when she left. I remember sitting on our back patio that night with a beer, watching the garden lights flicker, and wondering how long I could keep pretending. Every love story has its turning point. The moment where someone chooses to stay or go. I wasn't there yet, but I could see the cliff's edge. I could feel the gravel shifting under my feet. I kept thinking about Lila, about what she would remember, about what kind of father I wanted to be when this all came crashing down. And still, I said nothing, because I wanted her to come clean. I wanted them to. Because when the truth finally comes out, it hurts a hell of a lot less when it's spoken to your face than when you have to dig it out yourself. Or at least, that's what I believed back then. 12 years of marriage. That's what we were celebrating. A dozen years of laughter, arguments, compromises, missed calls, makeup kisses, hospital visits, and school photos. It was supposed to be a celebration of endurance, of loyalty. I threw the party mostly for her. Maya loved spectacle, loved the optics of a perfect life. I rented out a rooftop venue with glass railings that overlooked the city, booked a string quartet, and hired a caterer who specialized in Mediterranean small plates because I remembered, in some distant memory, that she once said she loved spanakopita. She wore a silk ivory dress that hugged her body like it was made for her, and she walked into that venue with the kind of grace that made people forget to blink. Everyone said we looked like the perfect couple. Everyone lied. Reed arrived fashionably late, as always. He had on a navy suit that probably cost more than most people's mortgage, and he carried a bottle of wine like it was a peace offering to a war I hadn't yet declared. He kissed Maya on both cheeks, something he never used to do in front of me. She didn't flinch. She smiled too long, too wide, and whispered something in his ear that made him laugh. I stood there, next to the man I used to call my brother, watching my wife beam like a spotlight, and I felt nothing. Not rage. Not sorrow. Just this strange, icy stillness, like my heart had stopped reacting a while ago and forgot to tell the rest of me. Guests moved through the space in a blur of cologne and polished smiles. We made speeches, clinked glasses, danced slow to a song Maya picked that I didn't even recognize. When the time came to cut the cake, Lila was perched on Maya's hip, her curls bouncing, her smile as wide as ever. She held the little silver knife with both hands and asked if her other daddy could help her cut it too. Silence fell over the small crowd near us. You could hear the wind between the strings of the quartet. Lila turned, pointed across the room with her tiny, sticky finger, and said, "There he is. Uncle Reed." Maya's grip on her tightened so fast it made Lila wince. "She's just joking," she said quickly. "You know how kids are." I didn't respond. I didn't even blink. I just stared at Reed. His face didn't twist with panic. He didn't laugh it off or rush to correct the mistake. He just looked back at me. And in that single glance, I knew. There was no surprise in his eyes. No guilt. Just something worse, resignation. I handed my champagne glass to a waiter and walked across the room, right past the clapping hands and polite nods. I didn't care if anyone followed me. I didn't care if it ruined the night. I just needed to look him in the face without the mask of civility. We stood by the balcony, the city glowing beneath us like a bed of embers. He tried to speak first. I cut him off. How long? He didn't ask what I meant. He didn't play dumb. He looked down at the streetlights, then back at me. It wasn't supposed to happen. That's not an answer. He sighed. About a year. Maybe more. I felt the air leave my lungs like I'd been sucker punched. A year. A goddamn year. I thought of every birthday, every family dinner, every Sunday brunch where he stood beside me, grinning like he belonged there. Every time I asked Maya what was wrong and she told me I was imagining things. Every time I defended them both to the people who whispered. I clenched my jaw. You came into my house. You played with my daughter. I didn't plan any of this, he said, and for the first time, he sounded almost ashamed. It just happened. She was lonely. You were always working. There it was. The justification. The script. I had written it myself a dozen times in my head. I almost laughed. Get out, I said, voice low. Don't come near me. Don't come near my family. You're done. He didn't fight me. Didn't grovel. Just nodded like a man walking out of a deal he already knew he lost. He left the party without saying goodbye. Maya tried to follow me, tried to grab my arm, whisper something. I didn't hear it. My ears were ringing too loud with everything I hadn't wanted to believe. The guests noticed, of course. A few awkward smiles, forced laughs. Someone tried to play it off like I had food poisoning. I let them think whatever they wanted. The party fizzled out after that. The music played to an empty room while Maya sat at the edge of the bar, head in her hands. I didn't go to her. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just picked up Lila, kissed her cheek, and told her it was time to go home. That night, after Lila was tucked in, I slept in the guest room for the first time in our marriage. I closed the door and stared at the ceiling fan, watching it spin in slow circles like it had all the answers I didn't. Maya knocked once. I didn't open. I couldn't. If I saw her face, I might have said something I couldn't take back. It was strange. How betrayal didn't feel like fire. It felt like water. Cold. Silent. Suffocating. You don't even notice it's rising until you're already drowning. But even then, I didn't make a scene. I didn't pack her things. I didn't start a war. I started making a plan. Because if they thought I was the kind of man who would let this slide, they'd forgotten who built this empire from nothing. They were about to remember. The day after the anniversary party, I woke before dawn. Not out of habit, but because sleep had abandoned me. I stood in the kitchen, watching the coffee drip slow into the pot, the bitter scent rising like smoke from a battlefield. Maya hadn't come to bed. Or maybe she had and left before I noticed. Either way, her silence confirmed what her actions had already shouted. She'd made her choice. Now it was time I made mine. I didn't scream. I didn't throw plates or demand apologies. I went to my office, closed the door, and pulled out the file I never thought I'd need. The buy-sell agreement. Reed and I had drafted it back when we were just two ambitious idiots with a dream. It was airtight, crafted by lawyers I paid too well to ever get cheated. If one partner wanted out, the other had the right to buy their shares at a preset valuation. It was meant as a safety net. Ironically, it became my weapon. I scheduled a meeting with Reed under the pretense of restructuring. He showed up, cocky as ever, dressed like betrayal didn't wrinkle a man's soul. I handed him the paperwork, watched his eyes scan the numbers, then settle on my signature. You're serious, he said. Dead. You're buying me out? I'm excising a tumor. He chuckled, nervously, like he still thought this might be a game. This won't bring her back, man. I'm not trying to bring her back. I'm taking back what's mine. He swallowed that. Signed. Maybe he didn't think I'd actually do it. Maybe he believed Maya would stop me. She didn't. When I came home that night, she was in the kitchen with Lila, making pancakes like it was just another Saturday. She looked up, and for a second, I saw panic in her eyes. Where were you? She asked. Getting rid of deadweight. She didn't respond. Just stared at me, then at the manila envelope I'd left on the counter. She didn't open it, not then. She waited until I left the room. I watched her through the hallway mirror, saw her hands tremble slightly as she read the terms. She didn't cry. She never cried in front of me, but her shoulders folded inward, like the wind had been knocked out of her. I didn't stop there. I called the dealership the next day and told them to reclaim the Mercedes. I'd leased it under my name, another generous gift from a husband who didn't know he was financing his own humiliation. They towed it from the parking lot while she was at yoga. She came home furious, ranting about public embarrassment and going too far. I listened, calm, sipping coffee like her fury didn't even brush against me. You're punishing me, she snapped. No. I'm correcting my mistake. Lila needs stability. Then maybe you should have thought of that before she started calling another man daddy. The words hit her like a slap. Her face twisted, not in pain, but in something more pathetic. Shame. Or maybe regret. I wasn't sure. But I was done interpreting her emotions. I had spent too many nights decoding her silences while she hid the truth behind lazy smiles. Next came the house. Not ours, the one I'd bought for her parents 5 years ago when they had hard times. I remember how grateful they were. How her father hugged me like a son. How her mother cried and said I was the best thing to ever happen to Maya. Well, I guess they spoke too soon. I gave them 90 days. Legally, I didn't even owe them that much. I showed up personally to deliver the letter. Her father looked at me like I'd shot his dog. You can't do this, he said. I can. And I did. She's your wife. Was. He tried to argue, to appeal to my better nature. I didn't have one anymore. At least not for them. I told him they could keep the furniture as a parting gift. Her mother didn't even come to the door. Maya begged me not to do it, said it was cruel, that they didn't deserve to be caught in the crossfire. They knew, I told her. Don't insult me by pretending they didn't. She went quiet after that. For weeks, I moved like a machine. Meetings, paperwork, bank transfers, legal notices. The house was mine. The cars were mine. The company was mine. Everything I had ever put my name on, I reclaimed. I was methodical, cold, efficient. Some part of me thought it would hurt less this way, that if I stayed busy enough, the sting of betrayal would become just another line item on a ledger. But the nights were a different story. I'd sit in Lila's room after she fell asleep, watching her chest rise and fall, wondering what she would remember of all this. Wondering how to tell a child that love isn't always enough, that sometimes people who claim to love you are the same ones who hollow you out. She misread. She didn't understand why he stopped coming around. Maya tried to explain it in vague, child-proof terms. I let her. Some truths are too sharp for 7-year-olds. Then, one evening, Maya knocked on the door, not the bedroom door, but my office door. The last sacred space she hadn't yet trespassed. She stepped in slowly, eyes tired, face pale. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't respond. I made a mistake. Which one? I asked. She flinched. I don't even know who I was then. I lost myself. I thought Reed cared, but he just wanted something new. So you risked everything for something new? I thought you didn't love me anymore. I was building a life for us. You were never with us. That stopped me, because maybe there was some truth in it. Maybe I had worked too much, traveled too often. But I didn't cheat. I didn't lie. I didn't invite another woman into our daughter's life and tell her to call me daddy. There are flaws, and then there are betrayals. I could have worked on the first. The second was a line she crossed without looking back. She cried that night. Real tears. Fell to her knees, hands clasped like a woman begging for her soul. Said she wanted to fix things. Said she was ready to be different. I looked at her and felt nothing. I believe you, I said quietly. Her face lit up. But it's too late. The words landed like stone. She didn't understand. People like her never do. They think apologies rewind time, undo damage. But some wreckage is permanent. Some roads don't have a U-turn. I left her there on the floor, still crying. And for the first time in months, I slept through the night. It had been 3 months since I saw her on the floor of my office, crumpled, crying, begging for something she no longer had the right to ask for. After that night, Maya stopped trying. No more texts, no calls, no surprise visits. She moved out quietly, like a tenant evicted in the middle of the night, leaving behind only the scent of her perfume in the hallway and a half-used bottle of face cream in the bathroom. I didn't ask where she went. I didn't care. I had other things to hold together, namely, our daughter, whose world had been yanked from under her without warning. Lila adjusted slowly, asking fewer questions, growing used to the rhythm of split custody. We'd settled into a kind of fragile new normal. And then, like a bad habit I thought I'd finally broken, Maya returned. It was a Sunday, late afternoon. The sun was slanting low through the blinds, casting those long golden lines across the hardwood floor. Lila was at a sleepover, and I was fixing the damn garbage disposal. One of those mundane tasks that makes you feel capable and useless at the same time. I heard the knock and assumed it was a neighbor. Maybe a package left at the wrong address. But when I opened the door and saw her standing there, thinner than I remembered, eyes sunken, makeup smudged from tears either fresh or hours old, I felt my entire body tense. "Daniel," she whispered. "Please." I didn't invite her in. Just stood there, arms crossed, waiting. She looked past me into the house, like trying to glimpse the life she used to have. "I'm not here to fight," she said. I needed to see you. You've seen me." She looked down, took a shaky breath. "I'm not with Reed anymore." I almost laughed. "He finally get bored?" She flinched. "He used me." "I see that now." I nodded slowly. "Took you long enough." "I made a mistake," she whispered. "You made a choice." There was silence after that, thick and heavy. She wrung her hands, a nervous tic I'd seen 1,000 times. "I've changed. I've started therapy. I'm working again. Real work, not just some boutique job to kill time. I'm trying to be better." I didn't doubt that she was trying. I didn't doubt that maybe, somewhere deep in that tangle of guilt and grief, she had found the faintest trace of clarity. But her clarity had come too late. I wasn't the same man she left behind. The version of me who would have taken her back, who would have sat down and dissected every emotional knot between us. That man had died the night our daughter pointed at my best friend and called him her other daddy. "I've rebuilt everything you burned," I said flatly. "The business, the house, my peace. Why would I ever let you back in?" "Because I still love you." Her voice cracked, and for a moment, I saw the girl I fell in love with in college. The one who used to dance barefoot in our first tiny apartment, who read novels out loud at night just to keep me company while I worked. But that girl had disappeared long ago, replaced by someone who lied with a straight face, who held a man's hand behind my back and still smiled at family dinners. Love wasn't enough. Not anymore. I opened the door a little wider, not to let her in, but to let her out of this moment. "Go home, Maya." Tears spilled down her cheeks then, fast and silent. "Please, Daniel, don't do this. Don't throw us away." "You did that," I said. "You and him. You threw it away and didn't even look back." She shook her head, a sob escaping her lips. "I thought you'd always be there." I nodded. "That was your first mistake. And your last." She left slowly, like a woman walking away from a funeral, each step a little harder than the last. I watched her until she reached the curb. Then I closed the door, locked it, and leaned my forehead against the wood. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just stood there, breathing in the quiet. Later that night, I found one of her sweaters still tucked in the back of the hallway closet. Navy blue. Soft. Probably one of her favorites. I held it for a minute. Then I tossed it into a trash bag and took it to the curb. I slept well that night. Better than I had in weeks. In the days that followed, she tried again, emails, a handwritten letter, even showing up at Lila's school during drop-off. I put a stop to it. Made the boundaries clear. My lawyer drafted a more specific custody schedule. I refused to let her chaos spill over into my daughter's life any more than it already had. Maya wasn't used to walls. She was used to doors, open ones. Ones I built, ones she walked through without knocking. But I had run out of grace. I focused on Lila, on work, on rebuilding my home. Not the walls or furniture, but the feeling inside it. The air started to change. The heaviness lifted. Mornings felt lighter. Evenings quieter. I started cooking again, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Spaghetti Thursdays returned, just me and Lila. And this time, no strange smirks or confusing declarations. Just laughter. Just us. And sometimes, when she looked at me with those big brown eyes so full of trust, I felt something like hope. Because I wasn't just taking my life back. I was finally living it. I used to think love meant giving everything. Time, money, forgiveness, even your identity if that's what the other person needed. I thought being a good husband meant sacrificing the parts of yourself that wanted to scream when things didn't feel right. I believed family was worth fighting for, even when you were the only one throwing punches. But the truth is, family isn't built on sacrifice alone. It's built on respect, trust, honesty. And the moment Maya handed those things to another man, she stopped being my family. She stopped being mine. It took months before I stopped checking the driveway when I came home, half expecting to see her car, parked just slightly crooked like she always did. Lila adjusted quicker than I did. Children are like rivers. They change course when the earth shifts beneath them. They adapt. But even she carried pieces of that fracture inside her. Sometimes she'd ask about Reed in passing, her little voice hesitant, careful. I'd answer honestly, but gently. He's not part of our life anymore, sweetheart. He made choices that hurt people. And she'd nod, slowly, like she understood. I think, in her own way, she did. I never told her the full truth. Maybe one day I will, when she's older, when her heart has enough armor to withstand it. For now, she only needs to know that her father chose peace, not pride. That he didn't burn bridges, but he didn't let people walk over him either. And that forgiveness doesn't always mean letting someone back in. It sometimes just means letting yourself move forward. The business thrived after Reed left. I restructured, hired a fresh team, brought in new voices. The atmosphere changed, less charm, more focus. It felt cleaner, more honest. Like the company finally reflected the man who built it, not the man who used it as a playground. I worked smarter, took Fridays off to spin with Lila, started running again. My mornings no longer felt like a race. My evenings didn't end in resentment. I found a rhythm that felt mine. Maya tried once more. Around Lila's 8th birthday, she showed up at the party, uninvited, dressed down, holding a wrapped gift with about too big and a smile too small. I didn't cause a scene. I didn't even stop her. I let her sit, say hello to the other parents, take a few photos. But when the party ended and the bounce house deflated like some metaphor for our marriage, I pulled her aside and reminded her, one party doesn't erase years of silence. She said she understood. I think, for once, she actually meant it. She's still trying, in her own way. Calls more often. Shows up to parent-teacher nights. Texts me sometimes with updates or photos. And I respond, civil, courteous. Because I've realized that civility is not weakness. It's strength under control. But we don't have dinner. We don't reminisce. We don't pretend. There's a kind of freedom in boundaries. They're not walls. They're fences with gates. Gates I control. And that control, after everything I lost, is sacred to me. I think back sometimes to that first dinner. The spaghetti, the smirk, the line that split my life into before and after. I wonder how long Maya had been carrying that secret. I wonder if she ever felt the weight of what she was doing, or if it only hit her when the ground fell out beneath her feet. I'll never know. And I've made peace with that. Because answers don't change outcomes. She was unfaithful. He was disloyal. And I survived. More than that, I healed. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. I still have moments where I lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, remembering the way Reed said, it wasn't supposed to happen. I still have flashes of Maya's voice, desperate and cracking on the doorstep. Those memories are part of me now, but they don't control me. They don't define me. I'm not the betrayed man anymore. I'm the man who rebuilt. Lila asked me the other night, as we sat reading a book on the couch, Daddy, are you happy now? And I didn't answer right away, because I didn't want to lie. But I also didn't want to confuse happiness with perfection. So I closed the book, looked her in the eyes, and said, I'm at peace, baby. And sometimes, peace is even better. She smiled, rested her head on my shoulder, and said, I like it when it's just us. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. The thing about betrayal is that it strips away illusions. It forces you to see what's real, who's real, and what you were holding onto long after it stopped serving you. I had to lose everything I thought I needed to finally see what I actually wanted. Not applause, not validation, not a picture-perfect marriage. Just honesty, just dignity, just a life that felt mine. And I have that now. Maya lost me. Reed lost my trust. But I didn't lose myself. I reclaimed him. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you reflect on your own boundaries and self-worth, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful, real-life inspired stories. Your support helps us bring more emotional journeys like this one to life. So share your thoughts below and stay tuned for the next story. See you soon.